forwards. I'm going to tell them to go to the right, or excuse me, the offense is in black. I'll tell them to go to the left, and that the defense will be striking with their left shoulder. I'm making sure that they're doing it right. I'm making sure that they're maximizing power and control, and that they understand what they need to do to be successful. Okay? And again, 90 to 100% accuracy. Or if you have anything that you want to take a picture of or record, feel free to do that. Okay? Because I'm showing you some stuff that Ohio State's doing, Michigan State's doing, you know, Nebraska, Washington, all of them. And it's just a little tweak. You're probably already doing something close to it, but it's a little tweak that'll add some more robust action in your drill. This drill right here is a decision-making drill. And what you're seeing is the defender's coming through this chute. Instead of just starting here, he's coming through. When he comes through, that's when the offensive guy goes. What we want to see is how does his feet change when the offense gets to choose which way to go? What's going to happen to him when he starts to realize speed and directional change? We get to see that action right in here. Closing space is the focus to see the decision making, and we can see if they can perform the strike timing that they were just working on. Does that make sense? Decision making. Okay? And it's important that the offense is trying to win. Okay, that they're actually trying to beat them. And so what you do is you'll have them go through Washington and Ohio State in 2015 during week 5. In week 6, they were both running in practice. Okay? Now, not this one, actually. This is a different one. But this is one in Nebraska. And hold on, I'll make sure I get to that one in a minute. But this one is just an early contact drill where these guys are understanding the elements of how to be successful in the contact. It's an early progression. And what's happening is the offensive guy's job is to stay inside the circle, to avoid, not to fight back, not to run him over, but to avoid. You'll see this guy do a better job. He's trying to get away, and what you're trying to do is see if you're a defensive player, understand what he needs to do to drive him out. The first time you ever do a drill like this, it might make you sick to your stomach, watching the athletes, because they don't necessarily understand what helps them be successful. In a drill like this, it teaches them right now. It's not you telling them what's successful. It's the drill that's telling them what's successful. You do rep after rep after rep. Engage athletes. Get them involved. Let them play. And then at the end, you ask them what made you successful. And then if they're not telling you what you want them to hear, then you can guide it. But right now, you're trying to get that from them. It's important that you're specific. But in here, you know, during the season, you got to start looking at more contextual stuff. And you got to ask yourself, do you even approach it that way, or is everything contextual? So you want to be able to break the drills up and create that variation to help the athletes understand what they need to do to be successful. Okay? Here's an example of a sideline tackle drill that Ohio State did. They start with a shed, and you can't see the cones, but they have a cone here, here, and here. What they're trying to do is get that athlete to try to get inside that cone before contact's made. And you can do a lot of things to this, right? You can do a lot of different variations, but it's important that you understand what's going on. In this other game, it's a game-based position-specific drill. Let me back this up to here. What's happening is these two guys are on defense. There's guys on offense. There's a blocker involved. Now this is not something you would start with. Honestly, this is like a 8th or 9th progression, and you have cones here that the players get to choose from. They don't know where they're going to go around. He doesn't know which cone he's going around. This guy doesn't know who he's going to block. It's an organic drill. Okay? As they go, now the athletes have to react to a blocker and the angles of the runner. You're getting at least 20 different angles here in a drill. One drill. They never know what that angle is going to be. So the level of engagement is off the hook. Those guys are paying attention. They're excited about it. You can do this with a half shell, you know, hole pads or whatever the case may be. But I wish you could see it. But these guys on the side, there's other guys walking around and through here. There's not a player that's not engaged in this drill. Okay? And it's important that they are able to see this, because this is something that's going to carry right over into inside hole. Mayberry, you know what his last name was? Ron Mayberry wrote about competitive sports. Do you understand competitive sports? Stuff that we're talking about right now addresses some points he made, and I'll talk about those in just a second. Okay, so I've talked about, because we've taken the ideas of rugby and flow sports where you get punished for not doing it right away, for not doing it right. You get punished right away, like in wrestling. If you do a two-legged takedown and you miss time your shoot, you're on the bottom. You're getting punished now for about the next 2 or 3 minutes till you can get out of it. Well, that means that you have to dominate that opportunity. And so what we've done here is that we have identified the angles that a player still has to knock a player backwards, to dominate it. That's what's in green here, the positive situations. We've identified a couple of types of tackles that are really easy to define on your game film that you can identify and label. And then here's negative situations where the opportunity to dominate has been lost. And now I've got to focus on controlling him and getting him to the ground. We met with the University of Washington. And answering 2 questions: how to maximize power and how to maximize control. If it's not doing those 2 things, then you don't do it. We've eliminated inefficient movement. We've helped them be quicker and more decisive in their hit so they can feel more comfortable in making contact. Right here. And it's put everything in question. Everything about head placement, hand placement, everything. I mean, right now I can't get deep into that, but we're here to talk with you about that. And I'll bring up the points in a minute. But I would tell you that it brings as much detail to the tackle as martial arts brought to pass rush. Eliminated the swim move. Started working off of key joints and weak points and those types of things to improve efficient movement in pass rush. It's the same kind of thing. If it's not doing it, if it's not doing those things, then we're not going to have it. Here's an example of a positive tackle. Watch how calm this guy comes in. He doesn't go head across. He's going near shoulder, near foot, right shoulder, right foot. Makes contact along the sideline and just kills it right there. Just drops it. Okay? Just an example of how he comes up. He times his closing space. He's taking leverage in on the near hip, and he goes for a near shoulder, near foot contact into contact, and just drops him. Okay? For an efficient tackle. In the negative situation, this is the part that's been a big surprise because we try to teach tackling in the same way for every situation, and that's not accurate. Okay? We don't need power in these situations. Power is good, but it's not the most important thing, especially if you're in a chase situation, because your momentum is going with his. Does that make sense? And so now it's all about controlling him. And so everything you do needs to be about control. Otherwise, you're wasting movement. You could potentially be defended or kept from being able to have control. Here's an example of a negative situation. Simple crossing route. Everybody cleared out. Linebacker picked him up late. This guy makes this stiff arm. He's up the sideline for about 30 yards. But watch what happens. He slaps his arm down, puts his arm across, and puts as much of his body on him as possible. What's important is that the athlete understands which arm is the most important. And it's his upfield arm, the control arm. So he can use that other arm to slap that arm down to make the tackle. If he would have reached with both arms, he would have got stiff-armed in the face. If he would have brought his arms back, he would have got stiff-armed in the face. The guy would have been up the field. Or he would have at least gained a few more yards or 10 more yards or whatever the case may be. The whole goal of this situation is to get as much of my body on him as possible because that will maximize control. He's got to deal with my weight, not me deal with his. Okay? All right, so now get into the tackle a little bit itself. What we wanted to do, we wanted to really take a look at how simple can we make this for the coaches and the players to where the tackle. We look at pre-contact and contact drills, okay? The things that attribute to the athlete making and maximizing contact and maximizing power and control. I'm going to break this down, but what we're doing in these zones as someone tracking, and this is relative to the position. So for instance, the defensive lineman could be locked out at the line of scrimmage waiting to see if it's fast flow or slow flow, or flow away or whatever. Okay? But he's evaluating when he's at this point. Okay? And if I'm not the primary tackler, there's things I need to do, but I'm in the evaluation mode. Once I realize that I'm going to be the tackler, I've now got to react and take angles for shoulder contact. I've got to take angles for shoulder contact. Here's the one thing about rugby that we talk about a little bit more than football does, is in football, it's funny because for years I didn't teach it like that. I separated them, and I don't know why I did that. But we just wanted to knock them down, so we always looked at where to hit them. In rugby, we talk about that and where we're going to hit them with. And because of that, our whole decision-making process changes. Our whole approach changes. Because if I go backwards, I'm on defense. If I go forwards, I could possibly steal the ball. So I want this on him. So I'm going to do it going to come into him even harder. And then the contact zone, I'll point out some areas that, well, I didn't finish the action zone. The action zone is where now you've committed to tackling. And I know you get a lot of guys in the tackle that sit right here and the runner comes into them, right? There's no action in that. That's reaction, okay? That's going to happen, but when it's out in space, we want our athletes to attack the line, attack the ball carrier, not wait on it. We'll limit his options. We'll get into that real quick, okay? All right. So, in this two-point process, and I didn't want to get too much into the technique on this one because I just wanted to talk about how to do some things systematically that'll get you there, but these are the things that we focus on. When I was showing you that two-point process, the furthest space away with evaluations on it, the number one thing you have to do is close space. When we broke down the University of Nebraska the first year, they had 43 plays where a runner gained 10 yards after the tackler hit him. 43 plays where the runner gained 10 yards after the tackler hit him. That is brutal, right? There's a reason why they were 6 and 7. But the reason was closing space issues. We addressed that issue. They would not have done that. They didn't know to do that. So by getting them to close space better, they dropped down to the 20s. They went from 70th in the country to 30th in the country, right? Went 9-4 instead. Next one is targeting the strike zone of the runner. And again, we have a couple of metrics that we use to think of proper angles and looking at the near hip into contact so you don't overrun it. Washington's number one issue was here, and so was Ohio State. They'd overrun the play because they were just coming in so high. So now where do I get my eyes to be able to make shoulder contact? And then footwork. This right here is the number one thing that's not being taught today. The number one thing. How to maximize your momentum into contact. A lot of us have talked about put your foot inside the hula hoop, step on their toes, all those kinds of things. I used to say the same thing. If you fix one thing, get them off their heel. No flat-footed steps into contact. Get up on your toe. Has nowhere to go but through them. So your feet should be underneath your hips for proper timing. Your hips, not his. Okay, simple little things. And that strike timing drill is what guides that. When it comes to down here, you don't see anything that's brain surgery here, but the number one thing that wasn't being taught is the strike. You know, the uppercut piece. One of the things that we'll talk about is security for injury in the shoulder and limbs and upper arms and as well as the forehead and the head. That we want our hands here going into contact, and we want it to be more like a jab punch instead of get big. I was told to get big. Get big. Right? My hands are dropped, and I think it'd be really cool when my hands are out. But I wind up, we don't lift weights like this. We can't lift very much like this. Everything is right through here. That's why boxers are here, MMA guys are here, wrestler guys are here. When they go into contact, they want everything tight. That's the way your linebackers are going to be when they go into contact on a guard. You're not going to ask them to be out here for it. So why we want it different for the running back? It seems so simple, but I didn't think of it for the first 10 years of my coaching career. So what we're talking about is an inefficient movement. So the strike itself was the number one thing that Ohio State and the Seahawks were doing. Number one thing. And if they don't, it's a sign of that they're not confident. We broke down Boise State the other day, and there was a receiver that caught the ball 17 yards away from the DB in open field. And you would think they would close and meet at about 8 yards or so, right? 9 yards. Well, the defender came up 3, and the offensive guy came up 14, right? That right there is preventable yards that could have happened had just known to come up and eliminate those hit bags, right? Tackle bags and those kinds of things. A real quick assessment, 1 sound, not 2. It shouldn't be bang bang, because that means their hands are late. It should be a nice hard hit and it's solid, 1 sound. Okay, that's an easy assessment to do as a coach at practice. Okay? Next, here's some examples of some dominant hits. Bang, and then just guys using shoulder-led tackling, no matter what position it is, or what team. Where to put his body, and he comes in tough on him, okay? This was the same team that wasn't closing space the year before, okay? All right, next thing. One of the things that will help your program also is understanding that tackling isn't just something that you can do in season. That it's something that you can do year round. And approaching it in different ways. So in the off season, it should be skill development or skill learning. So you break it down, you isolate the key elements. Competing at a very good level right now, right? They're making tackles out here, and you can make all kinds of comments. I got to speed up that thing. And so as a coach, you've got to be willing to adjust the time and space, because what did I say before? In a game-based drill, you want some success. You don't want to just punish them into the ground. So what he did is he moved the cone in, and then all of a sudden, he started the execution pick back up. Now they started to understand what was making them successful, and then they could pull the cone back out. What's been fun is we put different cones down, and we'll say, okay guys, we'll start here at the ladies' tees. You do it right, you get to go to the men's tees. And then we play for the championship tees. That pisses on. You got a sophomore back at the championship tees, and you got a senior up at the ladies' tees in a drill like that, then you don't have to say anything. Okay. Also, I want to talk to you about different types of contact. This one right here I think is really good because we got this from Ohio State, and we also want to show you when you're trying to develop shoulder lead tackling, targeting for shoulder contact, these two, is that broad enough, guys? Can y'all see that? No. You want to make sure that you know what you're talking about. And how many guys, I know you guys do tag off and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of guys don't even have a rule for that. One thing that we got from Ohio State is we call it palms down strike. You're going to see it on here. When they go to reach, it lowers their shoulder profile. It just naturally brings their shoulders down when they go into contact. It's way better than this. I hate that. You get in here and they just touch wherever and they think it's okay. And there's no system to it. But you get in here and you're punching, you get to simulate the punch, and your shoulder profile drops in a tag situation. Remember the positive and negative situation we said before? One of the things we did is we said in all negative situations should be palms down. All of them. And every time. No, I don't want any roll tackles and rolling up on each other, especially if you have a limited bench and all that kind of stuff. You just don't want that. But the coach can see if you did that. So here's the dino strike. The dino strike is a short-handed strike where you lead with the shoulder, but you don't punch in right. You just lead in and pop. It's about a 3/4 speed drill. Let me give you examples of what I'm talking about here. Here's a tracking drill, a close and gather. Here's a bunch of examples of drills that you might not have. You might have it, I don't know. This is a close and gather where they're mimicking the movement, and they just finish it off with a near foot, two-hand palm strike at the end. Hang right there. Here's another one where they actually close space, and then they finish with palms down. Here's another one. You'll see it here. Bang. Say, right here, I'd say his timing's late. But palms down strike, he tracked well, he did the tracking right, but now if you're going to make it a footwork emphasis, you can talk to him about that. So this is just a closed space deal. This next one is the dino strike. This is where the hands are in tight to the body and the shoulder makes contact. 3/4 speed, not full speed. Okay? This is meant to be a fundamental drill. In fundamental drills only, I would say, or no, that's not true. You can do, well, I'd say fundamental, yeah, because you're going to have such a high success rate. But we want the footwork down, and you want that feedback from the defensive for the defensive player. If they don't do this right, they're going to get staggered in the hit. If their feet aren't right, they're going to feel it. And they're going to know when they do it right versus when they do it wrong. And it's going to help them develop that strike timing they need to when you start upping the type of contact that you have. So see right here, his hands are here, but his shoulders are in tight. He's trying to get that foot in the ground. It's important to be able to change up the type of contact you have so the player can understand it. The player can understand the importance of, why is it? I did make shoulder contact. Well, no, you didn't. Well, this helps him understand what it even feels like and make sure that it's right, his feet are right. Getting a lot of work in. Instead of it just being palms down, you can go to a dino strike without it being full contact. The player rate the defensive player on a 1 to 10. So when he hits me, say, guys, we're shooting, we're going to rate you. Well, I want you to rate him 1 to 10, but I just want you to go for an 8. I want you to see if you can get an 8. That way, if I get hit and I'm the offensive player and I look at it, I look at you and I say, I was a 3. One, your competitive juices better pick up because you just were given a 3 back here. And now he's giving you the green light to go harder. It's not the coach telling you that you did it bad. It's not the coach telling you that you need to pick it up. But he's telling you that you need to, I'm giving you the green light to hit me harder. It's okay. And I tell you what, man, it really aligns quickly, especially when you're trying to get a lot of reps in and you want to get them to a certain level. I'll even move 8 around. When somebody gets an 8, I'll move it over to some other guy that's kind of dogging us here. I want you to see what an 8 feels like. Okay? Okay, that's thud, and then live, same thing. Except we saw how hot their feet are when they came in, but now they're throwing the punch and wrapping and driving. So now they're working on the finished part of the hit. Instead of the strike, they're actually working on the finish part of the hit. This guy, this number 15, did a really poor job here. You're going to see how he turns his head and he doesn't get shoulder contact and grabs with his arm, right? And anytime you get an offensive guy that does this, and you're hitting him, and it doesn't bother him, you're not hitting him. They don't know, they're not getting the right kind of feedback that'll help them for game day. We tell them to get here, their arms here. That way when they strike, they get a little more beef in it, not my open ribs. And so what these guys are doing, how many of you guys have the offensive guys that jump when they get tackled? When they do a tackling drill and they jump, you got to make sure they stop that. Because there's no physical feedback for the tackler. He doesn't know if his feet are wrong or not. Because he just carries them. You got to keep them on the ground. Got to get their feet in the ground. So the thud right there is an example. Okay, and then here's live. Well, no, this is another thud example. I'll just throw a couple of them in here. Okay, good timing right here. Okay, his knee and hips are in line to where there's nowhere else for that to go. Right here's okay, a little high, but you're seeing that they're starting to understand how to make good contact, effective contact. Because once they get in live situations, they won't get those opportunities. When people do these finish drills and they'll have a pad or whatever the case may be, a lot of guys make the mistake of putting that guy right here next to the pad, and what happens is it encourages them not to drive their feet. Move them a yard or two away from the pad so when they drive, they have a chance to get 2 feet in the ground as they drive them into the pad. Okay? You'll see it's happening, but these guys are coming in hot. I mean, they're not coming in and babying. You can see the body language of these guys. And this is about strike timing. This is just as much about strike timing as those other drills, except now we're adding the finish to that. Look at this. Look at his timing here. He's on his toe. His knee and hip is here. He's driving through with a nice good punch.